This podcast is a proud member of the Unidentified Network.
On the Track is a monthly web TV show about cryptozoology, natural history, green issues and whatever else the team feel like making up as they go along. Enjoy!
So, what's on today's show, Mr. John?
Well, Hennis, this week we go to Lake Manitoba in Canada with our old friend Ian Squibbs to talk about Manipogo.
I really like the old credits.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name's John Downs, and welcome to another episode of On the Track. For those of you who don't know, On the Track is a show that we do every Wednesday evening at 6:30 for about a quarter of an hour, and every Saturday afternoon at 3 for about twice that. And it is a mixture, a melange, and what begins with M, Lauren?
Manchester, of course.
Thank you, Lauren. I can work with that. Mantids, of course, are very successful stealth hunters in the insect kingdom. And stealth is very important in cryptozoology and the allied disciplines, which are the main subjects that this show is about when we deal with hard science, weird shit, and surreality. Surreality? What's that, I ask you? Now, before we go any further, I do want to apologise. We are very aware that in the last few episodes, and probably in this episode, there are glitches and there are bits when the sound goes out of sync with the pictures. We are doing our best to fix this. Let me tell you what happened. I updated the software that we use for recording at the same time as Windows 10 did an update, and ever since then either it is the software that we're using to record or the software we're using to edit isn't working properly. Louis and I are doing our best to fix it. But we've made the decision that any show is better than no show at all, and so we've decided to carry on rather than go on indefinite hiatus while we try to resolve the problems. And now I want to take you over to a lake in Canada with our old friend, Mr. Ian Squibbs.
In July 1960, 20 people having a picnic on the shore of Lake Manitoba saw Manipogo. The creature had 3 black humps and a flat head. The sighting prompted Professor James A. McLeod of Manitoba University to investigate the creature by trying to locate its remains. McLeod theorized that if there was a breeding population, they should be leaving carcasses and bones when they die. McLeod found none. Also around this time, a Mr. and Mrs. Stopel saw a reptile-like beast surfacing about 30 feet from their boat, and on August 10th, 1960, Land Inspector Tom Locke and 16 others said they saw 3 creatures swimming near the area area of Aedis on the shore of Lake Manitoba. It was after his sighting that Tom Locke became the first person to refer to the creature as Manipogo. The name is a hybrid of Manitoba, the creature's home, and Ogopogo, the monster's more famous lake monster cousin that resides in Lake Okanagan in Canada. In August 1962, the animal was apparently photographed by two fishermen who spotted the cryptid crossing the lake in front of their boat. Richard Vincent, an operations manager for TV station CKND, and an American television commentator by the name of John Conefell, first sighted something in the water 300 yards in front of their boat. At first, they thought the creature was a large black snake or eel. However, it revealed more of itself. The two men realized staring at something more inexplicable. They believed that they were seeing Manipogo and were fortunate enough to have a camera handy, promptly snapped a photo of the creature after it moved closer to them. So, let's have a look at what they caught on film. So, what do you reckon on that then, John?
Well, I first saw that picture in Graham Costello's In Search of Lake Monsters. Whoops, I meant Peter Costello's In Search of Lake Monsters. Somehow I got him and Graham McEwen, the author of The Mystery Animals of Britain and Ireland, mixed up. Mea culpa, my bad. Which I think is a remarkable book. But
yes,
it included the picture, but it didn't say anything about it. Today is actually the first time I have heard the background to the picture. But the interesting thing is that is an iconic pose, if that's the right word, for one of these elongate creatures, whatever they are. And I've seen similar photographs from around the world, all claiming to be their particular local lake monster or sea monster.
Yes, I think I first saw that image in the Onyx magazine of the late 70s. But yes, I recently acquired a copy of, it was the Peter Costello book, isn't it?
Peter Costello, not Graham Costello.
Yeah, because I did have a copy, but then my library got too big and I gave it away. But then I've acquired some Lake Monster books recently, some old ones, and that was one of them. So it's good to have another copy of that. But as we can see, though, in the image, it's a grainy black and white photo, a typical lake monster photo, and we can see the side of the boat at the bottom of the photo, and then we have the long, dark snake-like part of the show on the surface, arching out of the water.
It doesn't look that far from the boat, does it?
No. Yeah, it's one of the lesser known lake monster photos, but it does, as we've said, it does crop up from times in Fortean literature. It's not the best quality of image, but that's from its day, and all we can really see is something long and motionless. And if it is some kind of living serpent, then you'd be able to make out a head, perhaps, but we can't. So maybe it's under the water. And thing is, though, it's on the surface, so it would be unnatural to arch up in that way. So anyway,
not necessarily.
No.
I'm wondering if it's because I've seen eels swimming on their side. With a loop of their body coming out of the water partially. And I'm not talking about monster eels, I'm talking ones this big in Exeter Canal. But I have seen them under certain circumstances swimming on their side, which might then also explain why you can't see a proper head.
Yeah. Well, analysis of the photo has established at least 12 feet of the creature's length is visible above the surface, and it appears to be approximately 12 inches in diameter. The men claimed to have watched the creature for more than 5 minutes before it vanished. Their 10-horsepower boat was unable to keep up with the speedy creature, so they were always behind it. So again, the usual question arises. If they watched the creature for more than 5 minutes, why did they take only one photo? It's a common trait in lake monster in photos and reports. So,
and why didn't they maneuver themselves into a position where it wasn't so backlit?
yes. In 1974, Vincent was asked about his experience with the strange thing in the photo, but he refused to say that he had seen Manipogo. He preferred to say that he had witnessed and photographed something in the lake. A number of investigators have pointed out that the object bears a strong resemblance to just an ordinary log with a bent branch arching over. This is a perfectly plausible explanation and is more likely than Manipogo. There is also the absence of a discernible wake in the photo, which should have been created by an animal which was allegedly swimming faster than a 10-horsepower motorboat. Interesting as the photo is, it is not acceptable evidence of a creature living in the Manitoba lakes. So yes, so it's up to us to decide on that image. Okay. Anyway, as the 20th century came to a close, Manipogo would still not go away. In 1989, Sean Smith and his family from Minneapolis were on a camping trip at a shallow point on Lake Manitoba when he saw what he described as many humps in the lake about 24 meters off. In 1997, several reports came from campers from Quebec staying at Lunda Beach Campground. They saw what appeared to be a large reptilian head rise and fall in the water several hundred yards offshore, and swimmers were evacuated from the water. But the reptile head was dismissed as a floating log, but no log was seen afterwards. In 2004, commercial fisherman Keith Hayden from Newfoundland reported several of his fishing nets on the lake had been torn up by what seemed to be an ocean shark or killer whale. The fish that were in the net were not just nibbled on, but actually torn in half by what seemed to be like huge bites. In 2009, residents of Twin Lakes Beach reported seeing several humps a few hundred yards from their lakefront cottages. Unfortunately, no photos were taken. And in 2011, security personnel patrolling flooded home areas reported many sightings of several humps emerging, then submerging at offshore locations like Marshy Point, Scotch Bay, and Loretta Bay Beach. Veteran researcher and writer Gary Manipogo has theorized that Manipogo may well be a leftover population of lizards which were thought to have died out tens of millions of years ago. This hypothesis was also held by the late Dr. Roy McCall of Loch Ness fame, but a problem arises with this theory. The Manitoba lakes are usually frozen in winter, and zoologons were air breathers, and they would have to, out of necessity, be forced via the Nelson River to Hudson Bay, where large sections remain free of ice. Even if they were able to reach the Nelson River, they would have to overcome numerous man-made and natural obstructions which would prevent them from even arriving at the start of their voyage to Hudson's Bay. Chris Brasowski, a Winnipeg science writer who specializes in the strange and unusual, and is author of Unnatural History, The True Manitoba Mysteries, said the following. Some people have suggested, just like Loch Ness, it's some kind of prehistoric monster, like a plesiosaur or something with a long neck that lives in the water. At this point, we don't have any real scientific evidence, but it's fascinating to hear all the stories. But what we have to emphasize is that what a lot of people are seeing in their imagination. Bukowski, who is head of the Ufology Research Center in Winnipeg and has been researching the phenomena for nearly 30 years, is well aware of things that people think that they see. During the 2011 flooding around Lake Manitoba, he received phone calls and emails about something in the water. And he said, it is very unlikely that that we are talking about logs and other things because the flooding really disrupted the timber along the shore. Other explanations are that the beast is actually a swimming moose with its head above the surface and its humpback showing as well. Moose grunt and bleat when they are swimming, which could explain the cries some people have heard. Another possibility is that it could be a sturgeon, which are common to Manitoba. Louis Brecher, who saw what he described as a serpentine animal in 1957, claimed that its head into the water about 3 feet, then slapped it down again on the water. He said it did this a couple of times, and this kind of behavior fits with the characteristics of sturgeon. According to Manitoba Hydro, lake sturgeon never stop growing and are the largest freshwater fish in Manitoba. The average size is about 1.5 meters, though they can grow up to 2.5 meters and weigh over 140 kilograms. When swimming, their length can appear exaggerated because of the slow wake behind them. These brown and black fish can live for more than 150 years and enjoy tail walking, which is standing above the water on their tails. They have also been observed swimming upside down on their backs, possibly to feed on insects on the surface of the water, given that their mouths are under a long flat head. Butowski went on to say, one can just imagine a sturgeon rolling on its belly might appear very strange indeed. But when you talk to people who say, no, this was no fish, this was something with humps and a long neck that rose out of the water, what do you do with those cases, other than then add them to the mythology that surrounds this wonderful phenomena? Adding the little mischiefs might be exactly what we need. Thank you.
It's a weird one, isn't it? The Lake Manitoba.
Well, there's plenty of reports, which is a good thing, isn't it? Not so, and history.
I think it's interesting from a sort of almost sociological point of view, how in the mid to late 1970s and the early 1980s, it was Zugler on this and Zugler on that. Everybody, that was the go-to explanation, in the same way as eunuch eel is the current go-to explanation for all these things. And I find it interesting that the same conclusions are drawn all the way across the world.
Well, many of them have to be similar creatures, surely. So, yes. But yes, it's good to theorize. Obviously, with the eunuch eel, we do know that the eunuch eel does exist, and whereas the other more prehistoric theories are a bit more fantastical, though they are better to believe. But yes, but it's always good to look at different lake monsters other than Loch Ness.
Do we know if Frank Searle ever went to Canada?
I'm not sure. I know he went, after he left Loch Ness, he went to the south of England treasure hunting. That was his next project, and then he kind of disappeared. But he may have gone to Canada in his life. He was in the army, so he said. It's difficult to know what to believe, though, with him. So, But yeah, apparently he was in the army, so he would have travelled. He would have travelled in the army, no doubt.
I heard that it wasn't the south of England he went to, but it was East Anglia to try and find, I think it was Henry II's treasure that got lost in the wash.
Hmm. Yes, it would be good to have more information about Frank. There is that entry, the man who captured Nessie, which is probably the best document we have, which you can find on YouTube. But yeah, it's difficult to get more information on him and his background, which would be good. But anyway, so there we are.
If anybody's watching this and wants to do a little bit of research for us, go and have a word with the Imperial War Museum and see if we can find Frank's military record. Because I bet you if he was in the army, it's going to be an entertaining record.
Yes, we wonder what he got up to in the army. But yes, no, it's a good thing to see. So there we are, a bit of ground covered today, which is good. And also, I did go to the most haunted church in Dorset last month. So we can cover that one week as well, if you like. If you want to do a bit of supernatural. Yeah, I did some videoing. I tried to find some energies. I did take a compass with me. I didn't have a spirit box or anything, and I'm not sure those things actually work. But I did try and see if there were any earth energies coming through via the compass at various points around the church, and went to some of the locations where there have been ghosts and some ghost photos which have appeared over the years. So yeah, I'll knock something up for us about that one week.
If you want to support us and help us make more content like these, please press like, subscribe, follow our Facebook page and check out our Patreon.
And as the ghost of Joe Strummer, who's an ever more regular visitor to my little studio, says, don't forget to ring the notification bell, otherwise you'll miss the new episodes.
And that would be an awful pity, wouldn't it?
They might be thinking about visiting the south. Well, there's things you need to know. The south might seem quaint, but remember, in the south, they drink shandy, they keep cats, they vote Tory, they go to focus groups, they go to wine bars, they're as soft as shite. So if you visit the south, remember, think once, think twice, think soft as shite.
That was a public information film.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is about it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I want to say a big thank you to my guest, who's been the wonderful Ian Squibbs, and I want to say a big thank you to my producer, Louis, but for whom, well, none of this would really happen. And a big thank you to all the other people like Richard Freeman and V. McCrinnan, and my deputy, Graham Inglis, and my assistant, Gwyn Palmer, but for whom the CFZ would not carry on trundling on the way it carries on trundling on. I'm going to be back on Saturday. What am I going to be talking about? Well, you're just going to have to wait and see, which is a polite way of saying I don't actually know. I'll be back on Wednesday, and I don't know what's going to be on then either. But if you're there to watch it, Mr. McCrinnan, because I assume you're going to be there to watch it, Mr. McCrinnan, then because I'm there doing the live chat and the notifications and all the other gubbins that I do, I'll be seeing you.